Grief is a person's response to loss, and people grieve for any number of reasons. Here are 8 of them, in no particular order. 1. Grieving for someone who has died. When someone dies, it is the most absolute of goodbyes, which can create the most aching loss. When someone dies, there are no more in-person conversations. There is no more love, support and guidance, in a tangible way. This loss of life is a common reason why people grieve. The grief, no matter how mild or intense, is normal and natural. 2. Grieving the loss of a partner due to breakup or divorce. A loved one doesn't have to die for you to grieve their loss. You can grieve for the loss of a person who is still alive. If you go through a breakup or divorce, you can still go through all the stages of grief. Because that person is no longer a part of your life in the way they used to be. Whether or not you were the one who ended the relationship, the pain and suffering is real. And it's completely natural that you will grieve for the person you've lost. 3. Grieving the loss of a pet. Just because a pet isn't human, doesn't make their death any less heartbreaking. In many cases, people grieve for their pets as much as they grieve for their human acquaintances, sometimes even more. It's important to allow yourself to grieve for your pet. And we've provided some tips on how to do this in a separate video, which we'll link to in the video description box. 4. Grieving the loss of your job. Losing paid work can create an avalanche of overwhelming emotions, including shock, fear, uncertainty, anger, shame and insecurity. So it's completely normal that people will grieve the loss of their jobs, especially given, in most cases, it helps put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Amidst all this, they may grieve the loss of their identity, self-confidence and being a working member of society. 5. Grieving the loss of health. If you suddenly or progressively get ill, your life can be impacted in countless ways. You may no longer be able to do the things you most enjoyed. You may no longer be able to feel the way you used to feel, especially when it comes to pain and discomfort. You may lose your independence. You may lose your self-esteem. You may lose the ability to think and remember, as you once did. You may even lose body parts as a result of surgery. Losing your health in any capacity can cause enormous grief. 6. Grieving the loss of an item. It might be hard to imagine that grief is associated with losing an item, but it's more common than you might think. For example, an adult can lose a piece of jewelry given to them by someone significant. A child can lose a comforting teddy bear. A teenager can lose their diary. Although the items aren't living and breathing, the humans who lost them are. And those humans have an emotional connection to the items, and will grieve in response to the loss of them. 7. Grieving the loss of a feeling or lifestyle. Wherever there is loss, there is grief. And sometimes, people will grieve the loss of feelings they once had, or a life they once led. An example of this is a wife who must now care full-time for her husband who has had a stroke. She may grieve for the joy she once had for life, which is now replaced with worry and confusion. She may grieve for the freedom she's lost, which is now replaced with 24/7 responsibility. Just because the loss is for something that can't be seen or touched, doesn't make it any less real. 8. Grieving for changes in your physical appearance. For many people, their physical attributes contribute to their sense of self-worth and self-identity. To a person who has changed physically due to illness, age, surgery or an accident, enduring these changes can lead to a deep sense of grief. As you can see, there are many reasons why people grieve, some of them are obvious, others are not. In all cases though, the grief is real and can be intense and long-lasting. If you are grieving right now, we are so sorry for your loss. If this video resonated with you, please consider liking it, and subscribing to our channel. We are here for you on your grief journey. You may also want to consider watching our video on how to cope with grief and loss. We'll link to it in the description box, below.